All right. Hey, everybody. I'm super happy to be talking to Ryan George today, internet comedian, well known for his YouTube videos where he talks to himself, all including the popular pitch meeting series, which is hilarious. Everybody should check it out if you haven't seen it yet. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing well, Rob. How about you?
I'm great, thank you. I really appreciate you making some time for me today. So let's just get into it. I'm curious. I don't know a lot of comedians. I want to know what your origin story is. How did you get on this path as an entertainer?
Um, I don't know. It's always been like the one thing that I've been not terrible at. um, like as a kid, I wasn't the class clown necessarily, but I was always making like my friends laugh in private, or sometimes whispering funny lines to the less shy kid who would then say them out loud and get all the laughs. So I've always been kind of like writing or performing in some way, and at a certain point I realized that that could be a career, and then that's like the only thing I was ever interested in doing. So that's my origin story, is that I didn't suck at it, so I pursued it.
Cool. And when you started out, did you go immediately for YouTube, or what was the kind of avenue that you took to kind of get yourself out there and be seen?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, when I started doing comedy stuff, or being interested in like actually pursuing it as a career, YouTube and internet stuff was just starting out. And I didn't have any connections to Hollywood or anything, so it just kind of became, oh, I could just make my own stuff. Um, this was around the time, like beginning of YouTube was also when The Lonely Island started doing SNL digital shorts, and
Mhm.
funnyordie.com was really big. College Humor was really big. And it just kind of became like, well, I could do that. These seem like they just have a camera for the most part, so I could get a camera. Um, and yeah, just started doing that for years and years and years, pretty much.
So, the videos that you produce are pretty much a one-man show. You're
hmm
talking to yourself, putting together skits where you like exchange dialogue with other characters, but it's always you. How did you come up with the idea for that?
That was really just eliminating any roadblocks to making comedy, pretty much. I've done a lot of sketch comedy like with my friends, which is great, and I love doing it, but it's tough to schedule. It's tough to have to book physical locations, other actors. You're working with like a lot of different elements, camera crew. So me playing multiple characters and just using a green screen to change the background is really just allowed me to just output a lot of comedy. I did stand up for a couple of years, but it just, I don't know, we could talk more about that later, but I just felt like my skills lied more in sketch comedy video, and um, it's really just the way that I figured out to be able to make a lot of it, which is what you need to do on YouTube, right? It's like the monster that you need to feed all the time. So,
For sure. And that must be a challenge in and of itself, just being able to produce that amount of content. And that's another question I had was like, where does your inspiration come from, and how do you stay so motivated to keep doing it for so long? Because I know from following your work on pitch meetings and everything that you do a lot and you work all the time. Do you ever feel like tired or like lacking motivation? How do you keep going?
I never feel tired. I no, I'm always tired. Well, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, we used to work together, for those who don't know, and like you were there when I started Pitch Meeting as Screen
Mhm.
Rant, and were in fact the one who allowed me to start it. So thank you for that. I don't know if I ever
Oh,
thanked you.
I,
Um,
I loved it from the moment that I first saw the videos, and I was like, oh, we really need to do this because, like, if something makes me laugh, then that's a pretty good indicator for me that it could work, as a video. Because like, I'm still working in media. I'm not sure if you
yeah.
if you know, but I'm with Watch Mojo now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, to this day, like I follow kind of the same formula that I did back when I was working on Screen Rant, with where if it's something that really entertains me, then it's I feel like it's worth giving it a shot. And that's
Uh-huh.
basically what happened. So like I really voted strongly for your series, and I'm so happy that it took off and gained the popularity that it did.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. I mean, honestly, yeah, that's I just needed that opportunity to make the pitch meetings, and yeah, were instrumental in doing that. So thank you. And then, well, back to the question of motivation and stuff. It's really just, I mean, that kind of ties into it. Is that after years of doing comedy, it's kind of like now that I've managed to make a career of it, I don't want to have any regrets of not having worked hard enough. Um, I I don't want to. I don't want to like miss this opportunity. I want to push it as far as I can push it, and having a platform online is I'm incredibly lucky to be able to make comedy and share it with people and have them actually watch it. So even when I'm tired and exhausted, which happens a lot, I'm still, I think about how lucky I am to be able to do this as a living, and I also think about like the messages that I get from people, which are really nice, and they say like, "Oh, I love your stuff." I'm so lucky to get to do this, and people would kill to be able to do what I do. So it's a good kick in the butt. And then also just the fear of this going away motivates me as well to not let it. So yeah, all kinds of different motivations, deadlines, sponsorships, fear, an idea that I just have to get out. It's motivation is all around.
What about writer's block? Do you ever encounter that? Like when you're on, under tight deadlines or whatever, you have to get something out. Like, do you ever worry about, oh, is this actually funny? Or like, I can't come up with anything that I'm really, happy with?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, writer's block happens weekly, pretty much. It's just something. Every week is uncomfortable. Every week is filled with doubts of whether or not an idea is good or not. I've managed over the past couple of years to at least foolproof that in a certain way where, pitch meetings. If I have a movie that I need to talk about, um, that's a subject, and I can just put all my energy into that. So that's pretty simple. And then on my own channel, which is just sketches about everything, I have kind of developed certain series over the years where if I don't have a completely original idea, I can always do a first guy video. There are endless possibilities, or um, these other series that I have on my channel, where sometimes I'm like, okay, this isn't the most original idea, but I know that people like it, and now I have content to put out this week.
So you fall back on the format to kind of like get yourself inspired, like in those moments.
For sure, yeah. And then once I pick a subject for like a first guy video, then the inspiration comes and like the ideas come, and it all works out. Some are sillier than others. Some have something to say, some don't. I just try to have fun with it.
It makes me think of a little bit like I always heard stories about the South Park guys, how they would write their episodes like the week before they were supposed to air or something like that, like a super tight deadline. I guess does being under the gun help you to like, you know, just get something out because you need to?
Absolutely, yeah. And also, what helps a lot is, as you're well aware, with YouTube Studio, and how, like, it tells you your most recent upload and exactly how long it's been since you uploaded.
Hmm.
I don't want that number to go too high, so I always make sure to put something out. And yeah, pressure does help for sure, because if I don't have a sponsorship on one of my sketches and there's no firm deadline, I do find myself sometimes being like, okay, I'm gonna take a breather here, and I could do that tomorrow. Procrastination's a little easier when I'm the only party involved.
Yeah, and I would imagine that taking some time to recuperate is probably also important, right? Because you don't want to burn yourself out at the same time. Obviously, you need to put out a certain amount of content to like stay on top of people's mind. But like, have you ever encountered a situation where you started to like really think, oh, maybe I should like scale it back a little bit, or like this is getting a little too much for me to handle?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I've had several kind of burnouts that I've had to just power through
Mm-hmm.
because um, I had to keep feeding the YouTube machine, and it's not fun or healthy to do. But yeah, sometimes you just gotta like recharge. When you're writing comedy, also you need input. It can't all be output because you need things to react to. So you do want to live life, or else you don't have any life to comment on, and take the time to read and yeah, live a little. Um, but yeah, burnouts happen. You know, I've been making 2 videos a week for like 5 years, so it's a lot of work. And there's also like peripheral life stuff going on. Like my fiance and I were renovating our home, and it took like 9 months, and it was a nightmare. And through it all, I was still putting out 2 videos a week. We had to live in an Airbnb for a while. I had my green screen set up in the corner of the Airbnb. It takes its toll for sure. So sometimes you need to kind of force yourself to take a break to be able to keep going. Yeah, it's not easy, and it's not. I just don't want to take too long of a break. That's something that I'm trying to work on, is like the line between giving myself the time to recuperate and getting lazy.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes those get mixed up in my brain, and I'm trying to like. It's okay for me to take a break, and it's not always laziness. It's tough, you know.
Yeah, I've been following a lot of YouTube creators for years now, and I've never witnessed a moment where a creator has said, "I need to take a break and step away," for, whether it's like a week or a month or several months. I've never seen that be like not well received by the fans, right? Like I think everybody kind of appreciates that sometimes we all need to take a break. And I'm not encouraging you to stop making videos. I hope you don't stop making videos. But I'm just saying, like, I've seen it happen to people where they were in a bad place, and overdoing it. And yeah, sometimes I guess it's the best thing, like to take care of your own mental health. But it seems like you have a really good system and that you're doing it properly. So more power to you for that.
Thanks. Yeah, and I mean now after 5 years of pitch meetings, I am kind of scaling it back and not doing one every single week anymore. That this is very recent, but I think it's gonna make all of the content exponentially better. And yeah, people are very understanding. It's more the algorithm that I'm afraid of. The people
Mm.
are great. The machines, not so much. Um, so,
Yeah,
but so far so good. You know, taking a little bit of extra time has been good all around.
that's great. So you mentioned receiving comments and messages from people and that being a motivating factor for you. So I wanted to talk a little bit about just in generally speaking, the importance of comedy in people's lives, because I know that myself, I've turned to YouTube videos like when I'm having a bad day, like I just need to change my mind a little bit, put something on, and it usually makes me feel a lot better. And I can imagine that a lot of people turn to you for that. So can you just talk to me a little bit about what you think the importance of comedy is in general, and why it's so popular and so many people gravitate towards it?
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten a lot of like really nice comments from people saying like, "Oh, you got me through the pandemic" and stuff like that, which
Mm-hmm.
is really, a tough time for everyone. So I never considered that that's what I was doing, but um, certainly comedy helps you escape, but also just laugh at whatever's going on. There's always terrible stuff going on, and if you can't laugh at some of it, then you're just going to be miserable all the time. So, um, yeah, I think just like levity is really important. Escapism is helpful sometimes, and yeah, it's yeah. People like to watch comedy to relax and escape the troubles of the day. Sometimes when I've done more political comedy or commented on events of the world, sometimes I get comments from people that are like, "Hey, stay out of politics. Like, I'm watching this to have fun." And at first, my initial response to those comments was like, "Ah, screw you, you angry person." But I do kind of get it in a way because they're trying to escape that stuff, and the internet is a cesspool of people arguing about that stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to mostly be a hub where we don't have to think about that too much. Although I will like talk about something if it's important to me and take the heat from those people. But it's important to be able to laugh at least once a day. That's
Yeah,
my prescription for everyone.
I agree with that. And just to follow along that point of people getting angry for dabbling in what they consider to be political issues, um, I guess it's a balancing act, right? Like, do you ever find that limiting? Like, considering, oh, I know my audience and I know what they like, and is there any like hesitancy to like go into a different direction that you haven't tried before, like not knowing what to expect from like in terms of audience reception? Like, do you ever feel limited by the audience that you have built around the style of content that you're doing?
I don't think I've felt limited. In some ways, there's just, well, I mean, certain things, like I've stopped talking about stuff like COVID and masks and stuff for the most part because it's just, there's nothing anyone can say that will convince the other side of any part of that issue to change their mind. So it's just not productive and it's not fun anymore. So there's some certain things. And also, just for my own mental health again, I've stopped intaking so much negative news as much as I used to. And so I'm just frankly uneducated on most of the major debate topics. So I could jump in and make jokes and stuff, but maybe I missed a major development on something. Like it's just it's not my place
I
on
think it's
certain
probably
things.
healthier for you to live that way, to be honest.
Oh, it is. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah. Whew. I I've spent way too much time on Twitter and scrolling through comments, and it's not good. It's that's not good for anyone.
Yeah, it's true. And the thing that I like about your comedy is that it tends to be always very lighthearted, and even though you may take jabs at like with pitch meetings, for example, like movies or actors or certain things, it's never done in a mean-spirited way. It's always, kind of like with a wink and a nod. And I really like that. Is that a conscious decision that you made that I don't really ever want to really target anybody and make anybody feel bad or just, it's always very light.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say that's pretty conscious for a couple of reasons. Some of it is over the years I've gotten a lot of emails from people saying that they watch pitch meetings or my videos as a family with their kids and stuff, and I'm very conscious of that. And although like I'll sneak in little like censored swear words once in a while, I do like to keep it relatively clean for the most part. And then also, I think comedy is about punching up and not punching down. And so if I'm making fun of how greedy certain movie studios are, obviously I'm punching way up. Um, and yeah, if something feels like it's punching down, then I just don't do it.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I never considered it that way, but that makes a lot of sense. So you mentioned that you kind of got your start in the early days of YouTube and the early days of social media. Um, Talk to me a little bit about the culture of comedy and how it's changed with the internet. Like I think things are very different now. We have a lot of people who've gotten their start through social media. Um, like how is comedy different than it was before YouTube existed?
um, Yeah, I mean, you have the whole school of thought of comedians that are like, oh, you can't say anything anymore because you'll get in trouble kind of thing. I don't really think that's true. I think there's just more consequences if you say something punching down or punching down because of ignorance, you know? Like we've all, when we were growing up in high school before social media, you know, we all used to make tasteless jokes, and a lot of it I think just came from a place of ignorance. And I think social media has given a voice to so many people that were kind of in the margins of society, and now those people have the power to defend themselves. And yeah, I think comedy's better for it, honestly. Like I really don't see, if you can't make a joke because you're gonna get like canceled or something, then you're not thinking hard enough. I don't know. Like, the world is massive and insane. There's so much to joke about. You don't need to like tear people down, especially if you don't know anything about them. Anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point too. I think, I mean, not that I'm a super fan or anything, but like there's been there's been several comedians who've like come under fire like in the past couple of years for their like certain jokes in their specials or whatever. And I think also the whole cancel culture thing has been a little bit overblown, in the sense that yeah, there might be a little bit of rumblings about a certain person, like Dave Chappelle, for example. I'm gonna use him because he came to mind first. Like I think he
Hmm.
released a Netflix special last year that came under fire, but I don't think Dave Chappelle is going away because of it. It's like that's what I mean by cancel culture being a little bit overblown. Like, yes, we hear some voices very loudly, but it doesn't tend to last forever, I don't think.
Yeah, I'd say that's true. A lot of the cancel culture has been, if anything, they've been kind of like kicked off the main stage, but they're still having extremely successful careers. Um, the people that don't care, so they'll still watch. Um, yeah. I mean, I agree with that.
All right. So, talk to me about your proudest achievement so far in your career. I know that's kind of like a very random question, but I'm just curious to know, like, is there anything that you identify as like something that really marked you in your career as a proud moment?
Um, I don't know. It's. I've had a lot of cool things. I don't know that there's anything that's like the proudest, but a lot of kind of surreal things that I never would have thought would happen to me. Um, that it's almost weird to talk about because it's like it doesn't make sense that this would happen to a kid from Laval. But like a lot of them are kind of name droppy. But
Drop some
like
names.
for
It's okay. No problem.
well, like now I'm friends with Tom Bergeron now,
I saw that on Instagram. That's
which is
awesome.
wild. And there was this moment last year where I get like a video from him with his New York Times newspaper, and he's like, "Hey, they wrote about you in the New York Times," and I was like, "What is my life? What is this? Is so surreal." Like Tom Bergeron, who I grew up watching every week on America's Funniest Home Videos, is telling me that I'm in the New York Times. So that was definitely a surreal moment. And then other things are just like meeting other comedians and them already knowing who I am, which is very surreal. More name droppy stuff, but like at a Just for Laughs party a couple of years ago, um, I met, I don't know if you know Brad Williams.
Uh, I feel like the name sounds familiar, but no, not by like I can't picture.
Okay. Anyway, he's a really funny stand-up comedian, and I went up to him because he was talking to the person I was supposed to be meeting with, and then
Mhm.
he was like, "Oh, I know you," and I was like, "I know you," and then he's like, "You should." Jimmy Carr is around here somewhere, and he was just watching your video, and you should go talk to him. I was like, Jimmy Carr, like
That's so cool.
what? Yeah, it's just a lot of surreal things like that. Working with Simu Liu, the Impractical Jokers. yeah, a lot of like cool validation from other people in the kind of industry. One really, really special moment though was this year, well, last year now, I went to Buffer Festival in Toronto, and it was my first time going. I had been several times, but like with friends or I had helped on a video or something. This was the first time that I was invited to go, and I did a panel and stuff. And then getting to meet the the fans was very, very surreal and special. Because especially like my things kind of really, really took off during the pandemic, and so I hadn't done any of these kind of fan meet and greets, and like a bunch of like awesome people and like cool like teenagers and with t-shirts and stuff. It was like, oh, these are real people. Like these aren't just like comments in a comment section. Like these people came out to see me. That so that was really, really special.
That's an
And then
interesting thing.
yeah.
Because I'm thinking like people who get their start in stand up, let's say, for example, get to meet the fans all the time. So they develop their
Yeah.
entire career meeting the people who are enjoying their stuff. Whereas you are posting it on YouTube and it must feel very different not having that opportunity to like actually connect face to face with the people that are watching your videos until you go to some place like a conference or something where they're lining up out the door and then it's like what the heck, like these people are
Yeah.
here to see me. That must be crazy.
It's very, very surreal. And luckily I was on stage with a couple of other YouTubers who it was also kind of their first experience. And so afterwards we were able to talk with each other and be like, that was nuts, right? These people came to see us. That's insane. Yeah, very, very special. It's always a little surreal when someone recognizes me out in the real world. I'm always like, oh yeah, 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 people, yeah.
Does that happen a lot? Because I mean, I think you're still living in Montreal, right?
Yeah, yeah, I'm still in Montreal.
So do you get a lot of recognition on the street, like people just stopping you and saying, "Hey, I know you from those videos"?
Yeah, quite a bit actually, surprisingly. You would think not because it's, so much a French-speaking city, but yeah, if I like go to a bar or yeah, a restaurant, yeah, it happens. It's especially like post-pandemic. It, now that people are out, it's yeah, it happens quite a bit. I'm starting to get used to it a little more, but it's still very strange. But yeah, if you see me out there, say hi. Everyone's very nice.
That's cool. So you mentioned the pandemic a couple times and how your channel really grew during that time period. So I mean, not to suggest that it was a great time or anything like that, but a lot of people did find ways to or did find some positives from it, at least like for yourself in terms of the growth of your channel. What was it like working during the pandemic, and like what were your thoughts on your work, the work that you were doing? Like, did it change at all during that time period?
um, well, I think a couple of things kind of happened during the pandemic. Is that when the world kind of stopped and most entertainment companies and even a lot of YouTube productions had to take a minute and figure out how to make stuff from home. I had already been doing it for years, so I didn't skip a beat. And I don't know if you watched like the pandemic SNL episodes, but it's just like I just have this memory of Kate McKinnon. The audio quality was so bad. I was like, this is on NBC. So, so yeah, I think that was part of it. I was able to not skip a beat, but then also I was able to process everything and the mass confusion. I was able to process that and make it into videos also, which was helpful for me in that like I could get out these feelings. And then also I think like people connected with those as well. So in that sense, it kind of changed what I was doing in terms of content, and there was a lot more of like, hey, everything's crazy now. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's a great point too, and it reminds me of another conversation I had on a previous episode with a friend who I went to high school with, who is a golf coach, and he had
Hmm.
been doing virtual lessons pre-pandemic, and then his business kind of exploded throughout the pandemic because he was ahead of the curve in terms of like what everybody was trying to do at that point, which was get
Yeah.
online and start doing their lessons. So yeah, I guess that really did work out in a lot of people's benefit who were focused on uh, internet, because that's where everybody turned, right?
Yeah, and which is weird to say because it was such a tough time for so many people and for myself included. But it's certainly like, yeah, I was making content while people were looking for content. So, um, I was more than happy to provide it.
For sure. And I guess I guess there was no getting around using that as subject matter to a certain degree within your videos, right? Because that was the thing. Like that's what everybody was thinking about, right? So how do world events shape the stuff that you do? Um, I guess particularly with the pandemic, but also like just anything that's going on.
Yeah, to a certain extent, if something so massive happens that it's weird if you don't talk about it,
Yeah.
then certainly, find a way to talk about it. But otherwise, now, after a couple of years, yeah, I don't know. There hasn't been like such a massive uh, event that has stopped the world. So I don't know how I'll react the next one that happens, whatever it may be. But certainly, like, yeah, it's. But now, with a couple of years of experience, maybe I wouldn't even. Maybe I would just stick to my little corner of the internet doing my weird thing, so that people have a place to escape to, rather than trying to add to the noise. I don't know. We'll see.
No
Zombie
wrong answer.
apocalypse. Maybe I won't talk about it.
Oh, if the apocalypse happens, yeah, I don't know if we'll be talking about anything, but so you mentioned something that caught my attention before, which was that you did stand up for a while.
Hmm.
Talk to me about that. And also, do you have any tips for doing stand up? Because I'll tell you, I lost a bet with a friend, and as a result, I must do a stand up comedy set at an open mic night tonight, in fact. And
Tonight?
yes, it's tonight. By the time people see this episode, it will have already passed if I don't perish from the stress. But
Oh my
yeah,
God.
what pearls of wisdom can you share with me?
Um, what are we? Tuesday night, so
Yeah.
it's an open mic. Okay, so um, pearls of wisdom is that nobody's gonna remember it, so try to take the stress off of it. Everyone's out there just like doing bits. It'll be 5 minutes and it's over. So like try not to put too much pressure on yourself. And then also people can tell when you're having fun. So try your best to have fun. And fun is infectious. And I don't know if I want to like give you too much. I assume you already have your set written and stuff. So I don't want to like make you start second guessing
I wrote down
things.
some stuff. Yeah.
How much did you are you winging it or did you practice a lot?
No, it's pretty rehearsed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I won't interfere with that. It's not the time to interfere if you're going up in a couple of
We'll,
hours.
we'll talk like later this week or something. I'll give you
Yeah,
a
let me know how it
post-mortem
went.
on how it
Yeah,
went.
exactly. Yeah, I'm very curious. But yeah, where are you doing it, if you don't mind me asking?
It's gonna be at Grumpy's.
Okay, yeah. Oh, okay.
Oh,
That's a it's a tough room. Um,
ouch.
it's that's yeah, that's probably the roughest room because at least it was when I used to, and this is like 10 years ago. Maybe it's completely changed, but there's a lot of people in the room who don't know that there's going to be stand up.
Okay.
So you might be like, you might have people just not listening, which hurts as much as booze, I
Oh,
think.
actually, that's fine with me. If nobody listens, I'm totally okay with
Oh,
it.
okay. Oh, well, great. So just do it for yourself, have fun with it, and I'm sure it'll be fine. And it'll be over pretty fast. 5 minutes
Yeah.
passes by pretty fast.
Fortunately, I have a group of friends who will be there, all the ones in my fantasy football league who,
Who
you
you
know,
lost the bet to?
who I lost the bet to exactly. So they should be there, probably heckling me from the corner. So
Okay,
that'll take some pressure off the situation. But
good.
yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it, to be honest with you. And what I told my buddy was that the worst thing that can happen is that it's a little bit awkward for a few minutes, and then I go sit back down and carry on with my night. That's really the worst that I can expect.
Legitimately, yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, it'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll survive.
Cool. How did you experience doing stand up back in your earlier days?
It's a lot of fun. Um, I found like I have massive respect for everyone who's pursuing that, but I found that Montreal is a scene that's hard to kind of break out of,
Mm.
which is why I kind of switched back to video because I was like, oh, I could probably open more doors if I do this thing that I'm already experienced at. But it's fun. Very nice community of people, and yeah, I kind of just like I kind of fizzled out doing it because it was like I was doing like one or two shows a week on a good week. A lot of the audience were just the other comedians,
Mm.
and I would usually have like a couple of drinks to loosen up to get to like cut the nerves a little bit,
That's my
and
plan for
that's
tonight.
just yeah, it's a good plan. It's not a bad plan, but it's not a healthy thing to do a couple of times a week.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
so yeah. Yeah, that's what maybe I'll go back to it someday, but yeah, it's fun. It's a good time.
Well, if you ever
You meet a
do
lot
go
of cool
back to it,
people.
please let me know because I would love to come out and see you. Um,
Yeah, we'll do.
I can imagine that, yeah, for any English entertainers working in Montreal, it must be different. And I would assume that a lot of them probably move out to like Toronto or something like that,
They
to
do.
really focus on their careers, or even, you know, LA or wherever else in the States where there's big comedy scenes. Um, but since you've moved into video, I guess living here is not really much of as much of a challenge as it would have been if you stayed in the on the live circuit. But did you ever consider like moving out of the city to pursue your career, or are you comfortable with continuing to operate out of Montreal?
Yeah, I'm happy here now, but before I was able to make a living doing this, that was certainly like something that I was thinking, like just buying a van and driving down to LA or even Toronto, or just trying to go where things are made, and where you can collaborate with people. Um, but yeah, now no, I'm happy here, and I could collaborate with people virtually now. You don't necessarily need to be in the same room as anyone, but I do like pop down to Los Angeles once in a while for like meetings and whatnot, and or collaborations, and same with Toronto. So yeah, no, this is definitely my home base. Like I don't really have any intention, unless some massive opportunity pops up. But like my roots are here, my family's here, my home is here. So yeah, hopefully I can stay here.
That makes a lot of sense, and I relate to it kind of like on a different side with because I used to well used to I still do play music, and I was
Yeah.
playing with a band for years. And when we always felt that Montreal had such a small like music scene compared to like Toronto, for example. And
Mhm.
we've had the discussion of like, okay, well, like, do we try to travel more, like spend more time in these bigger cities? And especially when you're focused so much on like playing live music, it really makes a big difference. Like where you are, like what city you're based in.
Mhm.
But now I have friends who are really focused more on like the publishing, like songwriting and putting their stuff out there online
Mhm.
and having great success with it. And it really doesn't matter where they're operating from, because you collaborate with people from Europe, from the States, from everywhere. Um, so yeah, the internet has transformed all of the entertainment industries like enormously. It's not really about, getting in the van and, trudging across the country to do a show every night. You can do it so many different ways now.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's another thing. We're talking about the pandemic a lot, but that is something that people are a lot more accepting of collaborating online now because everyone kind of was forced to do it, or most, not maybe not most people, but a lot of people were forced to learn how to work from home. So yeah, even like I've had meetings with some studios in LA where a couple of years ago I would have to fly down and go into their offices and wait in the waiting room and pay for parking and all that stuff. And now I do it from here and I close my laptop and it's done. And I just met like with a studio person, it's awesome. And yeah, similarly for music stuff, I imagine, yeah, just work with anyone. Because yeah, I mean, Montreal it's kind of a special situation as well because of the French English dynamic. There are so many venues that are just French speaking venues. It's the same thing in comedy. I imagine it's the same in music. So the stages are kind of limited if you're performing in English.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I think the language thing is less prevalent maybe for music than for something like comedy, but I've always
Mm-hmm.
found that everybody says that Montreal has such a great art and culture scene, and yes, that's true in a lot of ways. I think that there's a lot more appreciation for like outside artists coming in to the city, and a little bit less support for the grassroots, people who are like, born and bred here. But maybe that's just
Mm-hmm.
my experience. That could be totally a personal thing. But um, yeah, I mean, it's been good in a lot of ways. Like there's no shortage of like events and venues to play at and things like that. Overall, it's an awesome city for arts and culture.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of stages.
Definitely.
um, yeah.
So I'll end this interview by asking you a question that I have recently started asking, which I think is pretty fun. Could you recommend a book, a podcast, and a movie that you think everybody should check out?
A book, a podcast, and a movie.
Yeah.
Um, for books, for this is a book I guess like for creative people, but really for anyone who has like a project that they want to do. There's this book called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, which is it talks about resistance and procrastination and how you got to break through resistance to get things done. It's very motivating to read or to listen to, and I've listened to it like when I'm about to start like a really big project. It's helpful to actually listen to it because it's really just like it's telling you to ignore all the voices telling you to not work on what you want to get done. So yeah, that's very helpful. Podcasts. I tend to listen to a lot of interview podcasts,
Hmm.
which are very insightful. Oh, one podcast that I really like, actually, that's not interview based, but it's very insightful into movies and TV and stuff. Is called Script Notes. It's Craig Mazin and oh my god, I'm blanking on his name. Craig Mazin and other host who wrote like Big Fish and stuff.
Hmm.
God, I can believe. Anyway, it's very. They're both like. There's a lot of podcasts where people talk about movies or talk about script writing and stuff, but these guys are both very successful working screenwriters. Craig Mazin wrote is the main writer of The Last of Us that's on right now.
The
Like
HBO
he
series.
and yeah, he worked with Neil Druckmann and they made this into a TV show based on the video game. So that's very insightful. You'll learn a lot. And then a movie. Um, that's a tough one. I I guess Everything Everywhere All at Once is a movie that I continuously think about since I saw it. Anything from those guys, the Daniels. Like if you haven't seen Swiss Army Man, delightfully strange movie
I haven't seen
that's
that,
worth
and I
watching.
haven't seen Everything Everywhere all. Oh, what's the full title? Everything Everywhere all the
All at
time,
once.
all at once.
Yeah, it was just nominated for the most Oscars this year. Like it's leading the pack.
I heard that it's getting a lot of Oscar buzz, and I will. It is on my short list of movies to check out, along with The Menu. That was recommended to me this week. I don't know if you've seen
I
that
watched
one.
that. Yeah, I
Uh,
watched that last week. It's good. Yeah, I liked it.
yeah, I've got to check out those two. I think that'll be my those will be the next two that I watch. Listen, Ryan, thank you so much for making time for
My
me.
pleasure.
It was great to talk to you to reconnect a little bit. It's been a long time. I really appreciate it. Is there anything that you wanted to plug or mention? Anything that you want people to see or know about that you're doing?
Um, Nope, not really. Just
All right,
just
bye
pitch
everybody.
meetings and
Take care.
yeah, just I'm doing the same thing I'm always doing: pitch meetings and sketches. So if you want to check those out, pitch meeting on YouTube or my name Ryan George on YouTube, and you'll find my stuff pretty much.
Cool. I will add the links to all of your stuff in the description of the video.
Awesome, thank you very much.
Amazing.
Sweet.
Thanks so much, Ryan. Let's talk again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
All right. Take care.
You too.